October is here and we are officially in the last stretch of 2025. 2026 is only 75 days away, and most people will wait until January to start fresh. But that's exactly why they fail. Transformation isn't about waiting until the new year. It's about building momentum and consistent systems and habits. For the next 75 days, what I'm calling 75 Thrive, I will be implementing a system I developed backed by psychology and habit science to help me realign my goals and my habits before 2026. And I would love for you to join me. This is not just a fitness challenge. This is an overall holistic reset for your mind, for your body, for your soul. So inshallah, we can enter 2026 with more barakah and balance in our lives. This time last year, I almost quit my business. I was grieving, I was unhealthy, my eczema was the worst it's ever been. I'm talking full body flare up. And me and my husband moved to a completely new city for a job that ended up falling through. I wasn't making enough money for my business to actually make sense. But fast forward to today, my health is better than it has ever been. I haven't had an eczema flare up in months. My business has grown over 200%, SubhanaAllah. And somehow, in the beginning of this year, I got monetized on YouTube within like 3 months. Now, what changed? I put into use the tools that I've gained over the past decade, and that's what I plan on sharing with you today. Although I didn't do these things in this exact order, I compiled them into the 75 Thrive system that compiles of 3 parts: evaluate, integrate, and elevate. Let's get into the details. Week 1 is the life audit. A life audit is when you sit down and you take stock of where you are at in your life. You find out what is draining you and what is giving you energy. You sit down and you observe your habits. Years ago, I had an amazing therapist that helped me through my first life audit. She had me sit down and write down my 10 values, the 10 things that were the most important to my life, and rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. And then afterwards, she had me do the same thing, but in this case, put how much energy and effort on a scale of 1 to 10 that I was putting into these values or these things that were the most important to me in my life. Let's just say the math was mathing and I could understand why I was all stressy, depressy, and very anxious. This is when I realized that the gap between what you value and how you live creates friction. It creates dis-ease. And sometimes that manifests as disease, hence my crazy health. Our actions, fortunately and unfortunately, do create our identity. Every single action you take is a vote towards the person that you are going to become. In the article, The Psychology of Change, Self-Affirmation and Social Psychological Intervention, it's a mouthful, the authors discuss self-affirmation theory. This idea that deep down, we all really want to be good people, people who live in alignment with our values, people who are not just complimented or are admired, but are admirable. When your actions match your beliefs and the things that you say are important to you, like praying and eating nourishing foods or showing kindness, your heart will naturally feel more settled. In Islam, this mirrors ihsan, right? The act of being excellent, because you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always watching you. And not in this doom and gloom kind of way, but like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you all of these things in your life and He expects you to do good things with your life. So you're going to do the absolute best that you can. When your life reflects your values, you're able to not be so anxious and conflicted all of the time, and you can actually start to feel more sense of peace in your day-to-day. After you make this list, I want you to sit down and write down your 2 energy drains. Time drains, emotional drains, whatever leaves you feeling zapped. You can easily do this by logging literally every single thing that you do for a day. It's just a day, relax. It's not a week. You can do it. So you log everything you do for that day, and it really helps you get real with how you spend your time. We are what we consume, and that applies to more than just food. What we auditorily consume, what we orally consume is in food, what we visually consume, all of that helps shape our beliefs and our ideas and our actions. So check that screen time, Buki, because it's probably a little crazy. But let's just say that social media and your phone is not the problem. It's probably one, but let's just say it's not. If it's something like reading fantasy books or hanging out with people who leave you feeling drained instead of feeling energized, cut back on the time you spend doing that. But once you do cut back on these things that are draining your energy, you need to replace it with something else so that you're not antsy with all of this extra time that you have. What I did a couple years ago when I first did my before 7 Barakah routine, if you want to learn more about it, you can click QR code here. But I would wake up, and before even touching my phone, because that was an issue for me, I would wake up. If I could wake up on time, inshallah, pray tahajjud, but then pray fajr, read Quran, do my adhkar, go for a walk, and then read something like intelligible to help feed my brain. So that first hour of the day was spent with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it was for bettering myself. Week 2, experiment. After identifying your areas for growth, as well as things that did not serve you or did serve you, start testing small tweaks in behaviors. And then at the end of each day, you see what worked and what didn't. This doesn't have to be in a physical journal. You can do this in your notes app, Notion, wherever you do your note keeping on your phone to make it as easy as possible for you, and where you can have a nice organized place for daily reflection. I also want you to monitor your self-talk. Are you being too hard on yourself? Are you being too lenient with your goals? This is where you really get honest with yourself, because the more honest you are with yourself, the more transformation you can make in this process. What is that little voice reinforcing, and is it good for you? Another tool I gained from one of my therapists was the ability to reframe things and turn them into affirmations. In the past, I've talked to you guys about this before. Like, I was not into affirmations. I thought they were silly. Like, I would just imagine myself being like Issa Rae, an awkward black girl, or in Insecure, and just like talking to myself in the mirror. But she actually believed the stuff. Saying things that I did not intrinsically believe in the mirror just seemed really cringy to me, and it just did not. I was like, what? I don't believe this. Why am I doing what I'm doing? But then Dr. T, thank you very much, my therapist, she told me that I had to intrinsically believe the affirmations that I was designing for myself. And this is backed by self-affirmation theory, which emphasizes affirming personally important values as a way to maintain integrity and self-worth under threat, rather than focusing on idealized traits. What this means is that affirmations are not about pretending, because that creates internal conflict. It's about anchoring yourself in your truth and what you really believe, and reminding yourself of the things that are really important and matter to you. For example, if you struggle with body like I do, and many people in the athletic community do, and just women in general, instead of saying like, I love my body, like that exercise where people are like, strip down, like look at your body and tell yourself you love it. If you do not love your body, that's not going to work. But instead, if you reframe it and you think, I am grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the body that He has gifted me with, and I will do my best to take care of it. There's even research that shows that once you start to take care of your body, you're moving your body, you're exercising, your self-concept starts to improve even before your body actually changes. And the more you do take care of yourself, the more you will, inshallah, come to actually love your body. This is a values-based affirmation, because I assume the majority of you watching this are Muslim women, so pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is important for you. So this is grounding yourself in reality and your truth while helping you become that person that you want to be, a person who loves and appreciates and takes care of themselves. This also works for negative self-talk if you reframe it, which is what I was talking about earlier. So hear me out. One of my negative affirmations, or my negative self-talks, lots of us have them all the time, but mine was, I fear success because I fear letting everybody down. It's heavy, I know. But reframed, that can be, I trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to equip me for whatever trials He prepares me for. Or I trust that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden a person beyond what they can bear, which is true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that. And by reaffirming that negative self-talk, it helps me ground myself in what is my truth. A lot of people look at their fears as like a negative thing or a negative emotion, but emotions are just that. They're just emotions. They're signals to what's really important to you, and they're signals of things that your body is telling you, that your mind is telling you. And once you come to the root of whatever that signal is trying to tell you, then you can use it in your favor, which is reframing. So at the end of the day, I challenge you to evaluate the negative self-talk that you were saying throughout the day. What is at the root of that self-talk, and how can it help you instead of hindering you? These weeks are about becoming more self-aware and experimenting new habits in a low pressure way. So here are some action steps. 1, do your life audit, where you're looking at your values versus your energies. 2, write affirmations rooted in values you already believe. Remember, your affirmations should be credible, anchored in reality, and paired with action. It's like saying, I'm disciplined as your affirmation, but you're not showing up for salah, you're not reading the Quran, you're not moving your body. Your brain is not going to be able to accept words that your behavior is not confirming. There's going to be a disconnect there. So they need to be grounded in your truth. Number 3, identify the top 2 emotional and time boundaries and then substitute them with a healthier behavior. And then journal daily for 4. What matters most today? Where did my energy go? What was my negative self-talk? And what is that telling me? Phase 2, integrate. These are weeks 3 through 5. So you have a solid 4 weeks here. Now that you've audited what's draining you, what's fueling you, we're going to create some gentle structure to help you become that dream version of you. If you've ever heard that saying that it takes 21 days to form a habit, science says otherwise. A 2024 meta-analysis of 20 studies found it takes between 2 and 5 months of consistent repetition for a behavior to become automatic. The medium time is about 66 days. And we're right in there with our little Q4 75 Thrive challenge. What makes the difference does not seem to be willpower, but rhythm and consistency. Like repeating the same action in the same context. So like with my before 7 Baraka routine, I would do it all in my room. I had my little section. I would wake up, pray, Quran and Adhkar. Then I would take my walk and then I would read. It was the same context almost every single day. And that made it very easy to be habitual and to make it a habit. The more consistent your cues are, the faster that behavior locks in. And if at this point things are feeling a little clunky, that's okay. It's normal. This is not going to be perfect. This is 75 days. You can get a lot done in 75 days, but the small consistent behaviors are what's important. Don't try to change everything at once. And here's how to make those small behaviors stick. If you've been here for a little while, you probably know that one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits by James Clear. And he has like these 4 main rules for creating habit change. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So for example, make it obvious would be like when you wake up, your phone is on the dresser across the room, but your Quran is right next to your bed. Make it attractive would be if you have a favorite tea that you drink, you will pair reading the Quran with drinking that tea to make it more attractive and appealing. Make it easy would be we're going to read for just 5 minutes. That's it. Or we're just going to read a page of Quran. You can do that every day. And sometimes we get in our minds and we think, well, that's really not that much. But if you read for 5 minutes a day, every single day for a month, that's what, 150 minutes of Quran. And if you read 0 minutes of Quran last month, that's a huge change. And then number 4, make it satisfying. Have a cute little planner or something. I know some of the girlies like a cute planner, and physically check it off. There's something about physically checking things off that feels so rewarding. And when you feel rewarding and you feel satisfied, you're more likely to continue with a behavior. Next, this is an option, but I found it to be very helpful, and you do not have to follow this to the T because we are making a lot of changes here, but feel free to do as much or as little of this as you want to. So there's something called ultradian rhythms. We've heard of circadian rhythm, which is like what your body is doing on a day-to-day in 24 hours. Ultradian rhythms are kind of like these 90-minute blocks, fluctuations of energy throughout your day. In order to know how your ultradian rhythms are and those kind of 90 block cycles, similar to what you did with figuring out where you were putting your energy, just kind of mark on your planner, just like one day, when you feel like you have the highest energy and when you feel like you have the lowest energy, and then you can plan around that. So let's say you wake up and you have really, really high energy. Some people wake up and they're morning people like me. That's when I need to get things done that I otherwise would be dragging my feet a little bit to do. So I'm not somebody who can commit to reading the Quran before I go to bed because I'm really tired. So I need to read the Quran when I wake up. Or if I have a scholarly paper or something I need to read for like a client that has like a pain or something going on, I need to do that in the morning when I have the most like brain juice. But then after that, when I'm starting to get tired at like 11, I'm starting to clock out a little bit. That's when I go for a walk, or I do some qigong, or I move my body. You can figure out where your energy fluctuations are, and then you place your habits in accordingly. If you do want to learn more about ultradian rhythms and kind of like the science behind it and get more into the weeds, you can check out my newsletter right here. This month, I want you to make those small things sacred. Make your routines sacred. Consistency is quiet, but it compounds. So that 5 minutes of reading the Quran in the morning, that little walk that you're taking midday after lunch, doing those things a little bit over time adds up and can make a huge difference. If you turn your habits into systems, you may achieve more in these next couple months than you have in the rest of 2025. Get locked in and you'll be surprised with how much you can do. So action steps for integrate phase. Anchor 3 keystone habits. So 1 for Dean, 1 for health, and 1 for expression. Keystone habits are kind of like your big anchoring habits, and then your systems can fall around that. So my keystone habit was waking up early, so I had time in the day for my faith and for my relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's kind of like my faith keystone habit, waking up early in the morning. And then you can have a creativity keystone habit. That can be at the end of the day, I draw or I paint, or I take just like 10 minutes at the end of the day to write in my journal. And then try to have a health one as well. So that can be going to the gym for 30 minutes a day, or finding a YouTuber that you really enjoy doing their workouts and dedicating 15 to 20 minutes a day to doing that. Focusing on your spiritual health, your physical health, and your mental health with that creativity can be so game changing. Next, structure your days and your weeks in alignment with your energy and with your cycles. And lastly, continue to track that progress in a journal or in a planner. Now we are in phase 3, weeks 6 through 9. Elevate. You've cleaned up your inputs. You got rid of that stuff that was taking up all that space in your mind. You started to, inshallah, build some consistency with your habits, and now we refine them. And refinement isn't about doing more, like adding more onto our habits. It's about focusing on doing what we're doing what matters with more intention and more efficiently. James Clear says that you do not rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And I think that goes for identity as well. In psychology, this is called role adaptation. If you've ever heard of the Stanford Prison Experiment, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's incredibly eye-opening and interesting. So if you have not heard about the Stanford Prison Experiment, go ahead and research that. So what had happened was the researchers got 24 participants and they split them into prisoners or prison guards. This is incredibly controversial, and you'll see why. So what happened was the people who are given the identity of prison guards increasingly became more brutal and inhumane towards the people who are identified as prisoners over, I think it was like 5 days. There's more to it. That's the gist of it. And it essentially shows that when we take on an identity, that can change the way that we behave and change the way that we show up in the world. Identity drives behavior. And now that you've gone through your integrate phase and you've kind of gone through your habits and taken stock of them, I want you to evaluate which of these habits brought you closer towards the person that you want to be. Choose 1 to 3 identity labels, like I'm a woman of Ihsan, or I'm a healthy person, or I am a creative person. And then think, what would I do if I was her? And which of the habits have you been doing that bring you closer to her? Narrow in on those. With that being said, you're going to organize your space. You're going to clean up for your space. You're going to show up for yourself until your environment reflects that new identity. And like I said, remember, this is not an overhaul of your entire life. But let's say you choose the identity label of I'm a healthy person. Keep your shoes by the door, that's your walking shoes, and get out your gym clothes or your walking clothes. Lay them out the night before. You're organizing your environment in a way that makes it easy for you to step into that identity, to create those new habits that make you be that new version of yourself. It doesn't have to be you put a gym in your house and all of these things. We start small. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are consistent, even if they're small. Then for your weekly review in this section, you're going to do the following. You're going to ask yourself what worked, what drained you, and what is one thing that you can refine better for next week. This is how refining your goals helps you step into that new identity. And stepping into a new identity can create an entirely new life. I know that was long, guys, but it's a lot, and I think it needs to be thorough because I wanted to create a pretty comprehensive plan so that you guys had to do as little effort as possible on your end. Now, you will have to do some of the work with designing your own goals and identity statements and things like that, but there should be plenty of content, newsletters, etc., that you can use as resources through the QR codes throughout this video. I will also, inshallah, link some of the studies that I quoted as well as the newsletters that I referenced in the description box down below. If you have made it this far, comment your favorite emoji or a new identity label for yourself so you can root each other on in the comments. I know it has been a while and it has been for a reason. I miss being on here. Inshallah, I will be more consistent, but something just happened in my personal life that might make that a little tough. So inshallah, I will have another video up by November. I hope you have all been well. I hope you're all healthy and as happy as you can be and content given the current situation of the world right now. I know that can be hard, but I hope you're making time for yourself. And inshallah, if things have been a little bit more difficult for you, this challenge helps you become a little bit more grounded and weather some of the storminess of the current climate of the world. Also, before I go, I want to mention this. We are entering winter time, which is the absolute best time in terms of ease to make up your fasts. So that is something that I have to get on. If you have not made up your fast yet, just a gentle reminder to do so. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Share it with somebody you think might benefit. Like, subscribe, do all the things. And inshallah, I will see you all soon. As always, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.